Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. I made a cup of coffee and there was a coffee grain and it was right. And I went and I touched my screen here like I usually do, thinking that my laptop is a touch screen and I left a coffee grain there. So when I came in live, I had this great big black dot on my chin, not realizing it was the coffee grain. But you guys, pop in, say hi. Again, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I'm Cindy. Hi. I explore the inside and the outside. And every week, and we're going on our, do believe our 29th word this week. Powerful word. And we go at the word every day, each week, just kind of in a comfortable layman's kind of thing, just trusting that the lessons that I take in, the experiences that I have, because it's all based, when I actually sought out what I wanted to do with my life, right? I was taught my purpose comes from my pain, oh my goodness, right? I wish I had had the lessons and these kind of conversations when I was, oh, the younger the better in all truth. But understanding we live in a world where adults, right, understandably, do not have that connections with the children, right? Right? It's we have to watch over those kids. We have to watch over that content that gets to them. And even though there's some amazing lessons out in the world, lots of times those lessons don't get to the kids. Sometimes, you have a mom who works full time and she has a few children trying to put a roof over their heads, right? Maybe in that same idea of having a big family and the husband is struggling to keep the roof over their children's head. And lots of times, the kids don't understand the struggles, but they do understand what they don't have because they see it out in the world. They see it with their friends family, how they treat their kids. They see it with the parents, how they could be so loving and generous and forgiving, and lots you just see the differences. And as a child, we don't recognize that, oh, well, we can't have that mountain bike because dad's got 5 kids, he's got to keep a roof over his head. And this kid's father is an engineer making $250,000 a year or whatever bridge engineers make. I know they make lots of money, right? But there's a sacrifice in that. You got to think, that even in my own life, I do a lot of sacrificing in my life to kind of have a life. You know, Cindy's not going to be around forever. And, I would like to enjoy this ride. I think that's everybody's right, everybody's responsibility in creating the best human being we possibly can is to create an amazing life that, right, in the best human being we possibly can, we are having fun at it, right? We are contributing in it. We are getting those most important aspects because each one of us has different things that we need in our lives, you know? Like I sacrifice one extra shift during the norm of a work week. I follow what's going on in Great Britain. They've been doing tests and people have really been doing quite well in having 4-day work weeks. I've been doing 4-day work weeks for years now. Of course, I chip in on occasion when people call in sick or there's funerals. And right, I am that team player. But for the most part, I devote, my brand, gets a job, it's like working 4 days, and it's like 4 days a week. 4 days working on my brand, and 4 days, there's 7 days. So I'm putting in extra hours on the days that I'm working and stuff. And I love to do it. I look forward to coming home and seeing what I can absorb, what I can resonate with. It's exciting. And not every day do I learn something, not every single day, right? But it's amazing when I do. And that's the way that I like to move. And so I accommodate my life to that. So I do the 4-day work week. I've been doing it for years. Great Britain has just come out of a trial with its public of and its citizens, and they are doing 4-day work weeks, and management in these companies and corporations are quite happy. More people have jobs because obviously now, right, less hours, you still need that work done, but you bring on extra hands. So there's no excuse for people not to be able to have a job if they're willing to work. There's work out there, right? Because now there's new openings. That extra time is being spent with family and investing in the children and the wives or the husbands, in their community, and in creating lives for themselves. And they're saying it's that there's it's in all aspects of the trial. It's going with flying colors, and I'm not sure if it's already in legislative that it's going to be brought into, right, legislation, that it will be part of the norm for each and every one of the citizens there in their week. I know I've been doing it for years, and I can honestly say, in my opinion, I don't think I would have been able to enjoy, and well, definitely I would not have been able to enjoy the process, because it would have been like always running off after to catch the bus because you're going to be late. So there's always something to do. And in that hairy scary, you can trip yourself up. They're saying people doing so much better in the work that they're bringing to the table and stuff because they're feeling good, right? They're feeling rested, they're feeling relaxed, and right. And for me, when I go back to work from my set of days that are my days off, that I fill with things for myself and take in the lessons and build on my brand and spend a little bit more time here, that it is amazing to be able to have that job to ground in, right? Because, like I say, I could be like a bouquet of helium balloons, and I would just, I just go off in the air, no doubt. So it's important for us to have other things that we love and need. I need my job. I need that roof over the head, right? I need to have money to accomplish things that I want to accomplish, right? That little bit of movement forward. I need to be in a relaxed, comfortable place where I can feel safe and be able to take in the lesson and expand in what I can bring to the table, right? And not only that, I'm doing it for myself, right? The rewards. This is what I can do as a little drummer girl in this moment, this moment in time in my life. This is what I can do. It's not the plan. I have goals, right? I laugh at myself, right? Because it's amazing how I can get right into the conversation, and it is right, right. And I don't know. Maybe there's people here. maybe there isn't, but one way or another, there is a conversation going on, and I hope through the conversation, and there is lessons all weaved in that, right? And I'm laughing because the first thing that came to my mind is, oh my goodness, Cindy, right? Look what you're becoming. all that flair and getting right into it. And I said, but if that's the way that it's going, if that's the way my life is going, that's me. That's my creation. That's the amalgamation, the assimilation, and the untangling of the wires, right? And it's also happening, right, comfortably. It's happening comfortably. So I don't know if that's making any sense. Today we are picking a word. I could trail off sometimes, just, and it's in the moment too. So definitely, I have to come in after my lives because I know there's a lesson there for me too. Okay, you guys, I don't want a pen, I want a highlighter. We are going to spend a few minutes talking about, is it our 29th word? Last week we had the word movement. It was a good word. It's a good word. And then the week before that we had the word goals. It just, right? It just seems just perfect. This week it's going to be my my first perspective, the first thing that comes to my mind, and then we'll just take it in from there, and then maybe tomorrow come back with a little bit of a different perspective on it, maybe an experience, maybe a lesson that I learned from some amazing thought leader or expert in their field, right? Maybe it was just, well, it was most likely. I like to do I found like when I go back into my lives, I notice in the patterning that the second time is usually an experience, how the word relates in experience with me if I haven't touched it in that moment, because now it's on my mind. Who's to say, right? Okay, let's just get the word, you guys, and then we'll just see for a few minutes where we can go with this. We got the word community. It's a powerful word, you guys. It's a powerful word. I'm very grateful to have been included in so many different communities. And I have moved away from a lot of those communities. And I've got this idea to start from the beginning, some of those very first communities. We're going to just bypass the family part of it in the moment, right? And we think about communities. And the first thing that comes to my mind, funny that it's this, but it was in my teenage years, my very young preteens, I guess, preteens, because I think I was probably 7 or 8 years old at the time. And Donny Osmond came on the scene, and I went a little bit cuckoo on Donny Osmond. Ended up spending a lot of money on these. They were magazines, teen magazines, and 16. I remember 16 magazines, and they were all in that the teeny boppers and the heartthrobs. What did they call them? Teen idols, right? And it was like Sean Cassidy and David Cassidy and the Jackson Five. And I wonder if there was. Yes, there was. At that time, they were trying, right, that idea of not being so segregated in our ideas, and nationalities and stuff. It was in my in the late 60s and early 70s when people became a whole lot more, if nothing else, tolerant. And sometimes tolerance is where it starts, right? But back to Donny Osmond. He was a teen idol. I got hooked on him. I was going to marry Donny Osmond. I belonged to Donny Osmond, right? I had purple socks, purple hats. I followed him around. I went to his concerts. I had posters. We had bunk beds. I had posters and pictures and love letters. I had all his albums that I played over and over and over again that I sang. I was part of that fan community. And that was a community. And that, when you look at that, right, that was my first step into this idea of community. And as we grow older, we move out of them. I eventually moved out of the community of Donny Osmond. It'd be pretty cool to meet him and shake him hand and tell him to help me, that he helped me so much through those young childhood and young teenage years, right? That were tough, that all that daydreaming that I did, all that thinking and fantasizing of how I was going to meet him. And I went to his concerts and everything. But then you move on. And then for me it was the Bay City Rollers. They were a Scottish band, right? And they did Saturday Night, if you remember that one. Saturday Night, Saturday, that one, right? So but then you move out of that, and then I remember going into metal detecting communities. So it wasn't just in idolizing people. Then I started idolizing the hobbies, and within the hobbies I would get to meet people who had similar interests as me, right? Now there were lots of communities after that, you grow into, and then you like the boys, right? You like the boys, and so you find the boys that you're interested, and you make their community your community. And for the most part, I would build these communities just built perfect for these people. And then they would just walk in. And it was my community. I was the queen bee. But each one of us has communities, and you think that you're all by yourself, but you're part of something. You even feel it when you go to the corner store, when they just recognize you when you walk in the door and say, how is your day? That's a part of a community. That job that puts the roof over my head, that little secondhand store that I work at. I work specific days. I love those days because I run the show. And right, that proud part of me, that part of me that wants to be seen, to be heard, to be right, to be seen, what I can bring to the table. That's my show, right? That's my show. And I'm grateful to have that job and that consideration, because it is a consideration. But I earn that consideration, and they know the store is in good hands. And of course, management is usually Monday to Friday. So their weekends, they don't have to worry. They're not even going to get a text or a phone call if I can help it. I'm just going to solve and work through the day. And I practice my craft, and we get compliments and Google reviews just out the yin yang amazing at our store, because we built that community, right? When people walk in that door and I know their name, right? They feel like it's a part of a community. Now, what just came into my mind, just an example of that community, we have this little Filipino lady. She's so sweet. Her name's Cindy, also, right? And she came into the store. But the night before, me and the lady I was working for, I was doing her income taxes at my house, and she mentioned, "Oh, Cindy, did you notice Cindy hasn't been around?" And automatically, oh my God, and I go into panic mode right away. Now, what could have happened to her? Because she's you see her a few times a week, this woman, and she will haggle you down, and she loves her crystal. So in my mind, I'm going back to our conversations and trying to figure out, did we offend her? But she would be a very hard person to offend in any way. And she knows that we love her and stuff. And she walked in the door. She walked in the door on Saturday after she'd been gone a couple of weeks. And the lady I was working with had her back towards the door, and I always greet anybody who walks in the door, right? Even just to say, "Hey, Pat," or "Hey, Joe," or whoever's walking the door. If I can catch their names, my regulars, I make it's a community, right? It's a community, and they come in, and it's truly an outing on their day off. It's truly an outing with their government checks or their paydays, right? Or lots of people also, I would have to say 1 in 3 people who come into my store are resellers. It's very, very high lot. So I call them my entrepreneurs, right? Company I work for, right? They're resellers. We don't give them any favoritism. They have to find the scores like everybody else, and there's always scores, right? Each one of us is learning to be experts in our field. Oh, I got a good one today. Community. So that's secondhand community. I work in a little thrift store. And anyway, back to Cindy. She came in the door and I went, "Oh my goodness, she's here." I was all excited, big smile on my face, and the girl I work with turned around. She goes, "Oh my goodness." And Cindy looks at us all confused, and I go, "We hadn't seen you in a couple of weeks. We were talking about you yesterday." And she just lit up that somebody thought of her, right? And then she looks at me, Cindy, and she looked at me and she says, "Cindy, don't you remember that a few weeks ago I told you that I was going to the Philippines for a vacation?" And I went, "Oh, Jesus, I remember you told me, Cindy. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Yeah, he says, "But we were worried." But she was so happy that we had given her a thought, that we noticed that she wasn't around. She really, if she didn't feel like community before, and she did, she certainly felt like community that day, right? So community is that relationship that we have, right? That we have as a welcoming into our lives, right? That a community is relations that we're comfortable to have into our lives, right? That we can ourselves be comfortable, right? What's a good example? Um, I'm trying to think of a really good example. Well, okay, how about, I use this quite often, but when you're going for a job interview, right? When you're going for a job interview, I'm Cindy, right? This conversation, how we are right now. But when I go for a job interview, even though my values will be obvious, right? They'll get a sense of that right away. This content won't be coming into that interview, right? My casual sweaters, right? And my ponytail and my unwashed hair, right? Won't be walking through that door in my job interview. Oh my goodness, I do look great for that woman. But it's all good because, right? This shows that I'm comfortable in what I'm doing. I'm comfortable here and I couldn't ask for any more. But I wouldn't be that person. If I had to go in for a job interview, I'm not looking for a job right now. Wow. Anything that comes by your path, if it's an opportunity, right? If it's going to enhance your life, don't just say no out of the fear of not being able to make a little bit of change. You have to trust, right? That if something looks like an opportunity and it comes across your path, right? It doesn't mean to drop everything that instant, but there's got to be a step or a right. And anybody that accepts you to just make that snap in the moment, that maybe I would second guess because you need time, right? Right? It's not like you're going to win Lotto 649 and then you're going to go to your work the next day and say, see you. Going to go to Galapagos Islands and lay on the beach and drink pina coladas for the rest of my life, right? Well, you could be that person if you wanted to. But I think if you're hanging out with me, you're probably not that person. So let's get back onto the track of community. And if you hang out with me, you know I go down these side branches all the time. But maybe there's something in that for you. It comes natural for me, and I always take note and I always bring myself back when I notice that I've been down there too long. So we got this word community, you guys. It's word number 30 for us. We're more than halfway through this powerful word that we pick every single week. And community. Community, also, I have to say right now, is that first thing is like, am I ready? Right? Am I ready? Because I do not want to come to any table with, well, with anybody that might not appreciate the level of understanding that I have, right? And part of my movement forward is to make sure that I'm still going to be able to move forward, not to be able to stop at where I'm at now and just be able to work with that, but to be able to expand on that because I understand, right, that quite possibly other parts of me may be coming back in the next life. Cindy's not coming back, right? And that's not a bad thing because I'm here now, right? And any experiences I've had, right? I'm not going to toss any of that to the side. I'm going to take every single scrap of it, good or bad, as a lesson and an experience in my life. That was my that was my life, right? And I'm not going to discredit any part of that, not in the very least. But it is in my hopes that I'm going to tread a little bit and make a little bit of movement for myself, right? Movement for those other parts of me that might be able to have a little bit of a heads up as to, right, some of those obstacles that can trip us up in being able to actually have an opportunity to be a part of this, right? To be welcomed to the party. And I hope I'm welcomed, right? I hope that I'm welcomed. I understand that as I am. Even my sister tonight, she says, "How do you get that energy?" I says, "I don't know." Right? God just gave it to me just for the poop that I have to put up with, right? And sometimes that's the case, but sometimes that's the that's the resources because we don't understand how to use them. Sometimes we don't understand that they're even there. And if we don't understand that they're even there isn't really any opportunity to burn that, right? So it just becomes a shelved resource. And there come a point, right, when that'll all be, well, it'll all be used 100% because I'm not stopping. I am not stopping. If it doesn't happen in 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 this lifetime, it will happen in the next. I think for sure, right? Between the community of my grandmother and my father, right? Myself, maybe some other family members, and maybe some people that I don't even know who have contributed to this creation and this story of me, right? Might never, might never ever recognize that. But I recognize that there was a contribution, right? I recognize that there was a community, that it wasn't Cindy, right? Right? That a lot of these understandings, a lot of these interests, a lot of these curiosities, these things that I delve into, right? Even in themselves, they are curious. And some of these traits, some of these understandings, and they don't even feel like they belong to me. I'm trying to think of a good example. And when I was, is that a good example? No, I've lost it. I've lost it now. Community. And that sometimes happens too. I don't know how I'm going to come at this word tomorrow, right? I have had many groups, right? Because my family was very nomadic, right? Very dynamic, but very nomadic too. And I've been parts of communities creatively, right? Maybe communities that people might not ever have thought that maybe I might have been a part of. Sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of bumping into really kind people that through a little bit of interest or same interest that we're able to make a connection, right? Sometimes it just takes one small, right? And that's why we listen to others, right? And then you just, oh, right? Like I remember Susan likes baking, right? I found that really great cookbook, that antique cookbook at work. I wonder if she'd like that book. And that is a connection to connection. And in that connection is the possibility of community where you introduce the people that you surround yourself self with, and she gets to do the same, right? She gets to do the same. And maybe you could be a part of her community, right? Maybe not. Maybe there's somebody in there that you just don't like, and it'll make it really, really hard to hang out with your friend, your new friend, Susan. But maybe Susan can spend some time, right? Maybe just a little bit, just to get to know the people that you surround yourself in your life. And maybe she'll connect in that community, and maybe she would be, right, in her own choices, want to pull away from, and I've done it many times, pull away from one community and move into something a little bit different, to something a little bit more fun, something a little bit more movement based, right? Maybe a community that kind of, right, kind of thinks the way you do, moves the way you do, that actually contributes to your life in a way that makes you be able to reach some of those dreams and goals that you have, but with that community, right, with those people, that you're able to, right, move a little bit better, right? Not for them to do it for you, but to teach you how to do it for yourself. And there's a lot of gratefulness in that and appreciation for others in that. And that's sometimes where I get tripped up is in accepting the kindnesses, because kindnesses don't come very often. And I know, right? Those kindnesses are usually opportunities. Usually they're good things, right? And I have a hard time sometimes accepting those kindnesses, right? And I can cheat myself out of not just an opportunity to better my situation, right? Or fill a gap with a little bit of knowledge that would help me move a little bit, but I cheat myself of possibly making a connection, right? Not just that information in the moment, but right, showing somebody that you appreciate their thoughtfulness. And they said, "Oh, that was nothing. You want to go for a cup of coffee, or do you want to drive home?" Right? And you start that conversation, right? Maybe you'll find an opportunity, right? To do a little kindness for somebody else. Sometimes it's neither of the communities. Maybe you and Susan become best friends, and then you start drawing through the pool of people and connections in your life, and you build on a new community, right? Build on a new community. One more example I would have to say, because it came into my head just now, is I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And when this city was first settled, when it was first established, it was a textile and distribution center. We had over 24 different rail lines come and run through this city. Nothing came into North America without coming to Winnipeg first. It's in the middle. If you look in the middle of the map of North America, you'll probably hit your finger on Winnipeg. So it made sense. It wasn't always that case, but a lot of manufacturers and a lot of companies set up house downtown on the north side of the river, right? And it was going really well. We at one point, Winnipeg, Manitoba was the sixth largest city in Canada. Panama Canal was built, I do believe, in 1913. It became a lot less expensive to, right, use the Panama Canal rather than, right, the rail and the shipping to through Nova Scotia come through rail, right, and then be distributed through Winnipeg. We really got hit really hard in manufacturing in Manitoba, but the whole continent got hit in that recession, and it was desperate. It Dust Bowl, right? No jobs, food lines. It was and job lines. It was really really bad. The farmers had just gotten back, I do believe, from the First World Wars at like 1917. There weren't any jobs, right? The recession hit really, really bad, and they had families, and at that time it was all settled land, right? So they were trying to keep their homesteads, and so what would they would do is the men would come into the city, and the wives and the children would run the farms, right? And the men would try to send money home to the farms. And it got really, really bad because they had to turn all these big, beautiful houses, right? All the owners of these manufacturings, and they had Catholic schools and beautiful churches, but the community got a little bit rough, right? The saloons started happening, and hello, dear. That's okay. That's okay. Somebody will come in. Somebody will come in later, Nathan. That's absolutely amazing. And if you pop in later and put your feet up, I hope you're having an amazing week. And just to give you the heads up again, we got this word community. And so, this word community is what we're going to be talking about all week. So, you'll get to meet some of my characters. Maybe they'll come in from my other live show on Sunday Night Chatters. I have some amazing moderators. Maybe they'll pop in during the week. I'm sure Melvin will be in this week, and he's absolutely an amazing character himself. But let's get back to work before I trail off. The recession hit so bad that all these big mansions and all these big company owners, all these, right? All these operators of these great big textile companies and these distribution and saddleries. And it was just so much that crashed. But all these husbands and all the men came in off the farms, and they started turning these mansions into rooming houses, and right, because everybody suffered. Of course, the rich people suffered too, right? And what happened is that community of rich people, they had to watch out for their kids, right? And the area got really, really rough with all the rooming houses, and they got concerned. And so they decided to just pick up, right? And move to another part onto the other side of the river. And it was like they built a whole new city over there. So anybody who had a little bit of money, that community, they built new mansions and they expanded on the city. It still was a part of the city, but it was separated by the bridge. And they left all those manufacturings. And thank goodness for Heritage Winnipeg, because they actually have a 15 square block of skyscrapers from the 1800s, early 1900s, that they have saved and be able to get tenants in, and is full of actual home renters and businesses. A lot of government have been using these buildings too. Movies get filmed here all the time because these buildings, right, they have to be set to code in their renovations. And right, community in that Heritage Winnipeg, another community. Everywhere you look are communities. And so if you say you don't have a community, it's just you. Well, you know what? Think a little bit harder, because if you did, I bet you are part of a community, right? Even if it's just in your couple of next door neighbors, and you all grumble together sitting on the porch, grumble about how the neighborhood is going down, right? That's a community, right? For me, myself, my sisters, right? I didn't have a lot of friends, but I had three sisters, and we were a community. My father was a bit of a loner. He was a bit of an Surprisingly, he was an extroverted introvert like myself, right? He was introverted, extroverted, but we never had people come to our house, right? I don't remember having visitors. As kids, we weren't allowed to have sleepovers. We were allowed to go sleepover, but we never had our friends over at our house. So my own family was my community. So you can actually look at community and just look at your own family, right? We're not always graced to be able to call our family community, but you can be able to, right? Again, pull people into your own friendship. Just because, your friend has that friend, you can make time for your friend, right? outside of what's going on there. And you don't have to explain yourself. And you're with the wrong friend if that's going to make a difference. If they're going to put you in a position of saying, right, choose me or choose them, or right, hit the highway, then just hit the highway in that, because that's not community, right? Everybody in your community should rub you well, right? You shouldn't have to be able, you shouldn't have to be looking over your shoulder. You shouldn't have to be in contemplation whether or not somebody's talking behind your back. There should be no question in that loyalty in those people that we surround ourselves with. Being highly sensitive and being empathic, sometimes because we want to belong so much, we put ourselves in communities. Maybe this is what we'll talk tomorrow about, right? Because sometimes, because we do want to belong so much, that sometimes we put ourselves in communities just because, right, you can be tolerated there, or you bring something to the table, right? It's like you're going camping, but you're the only one who has the tent, right? So, okay, let Cindy come along because she's got the tent. Kind of like that idea. And that doesn't mean you're with the right community, right? That just means you get to go camping. And whether that's going to be a good adventure or a bad adventure, well, it's kind of a crapshoot, isn't it? Because you just wanted to go camping. You didn't necessarily, well, you might have wanted to be a part of that community, but maybe, right, they're still looking at you like you got the tent. So they got no choice but to let you tag along. But each one of our choices, right, if you want to be a part of that community, there's lots of those communities, right? But you'll have a hard time being genuine. Have a hard time being yourself, because you'll always mold yourself into something that will be acceptable to somebody else's needs, right? To somebody else's desires and to somebody else's community. Yeah. We'll give it some thought, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Um, Working on community. It's a good word. It's a good word, right? Yeah, it's a good word. We'll talk about it tomorrow. You guys have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.